Messicks, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Messicks here with the new Kubota M7 Series tractor. This one here is the M7 171, the largest one out of this product line. Let's take a quick walk around here and we'll show you some of the things that are new on Kubota's largest tractor ever. We can't talk about the M7 without giving a little bit of backstory about why Kubota has developed this tractor. If you look at the moves the company has been making over the last several years, they're making more of a push into the larger agriculture market. While Kubota has made M-Series tractors for a long time, they fell short of a lot of the demands and the requirements of customers in true production ag. And so about 5 years ago, Kubota purchased Walkaround, which also includes Vicon, which is a lot more well known here in the US, which includes a lot of hay tools, tillage equipment, and a lot of technology also in the ISOBUS standard and a lot of the work that the Walkaround group had pioneered there. Here about 6 months ago here at this point, Kubota also purchased all the assets of Lamb Pride and Great Plains, also giving Kubota now a full line of implements and some really good tillage and seeding equipment through those acquisitions as well. So Kubota, which once started as kind of an add-on company for a lot of dealers, has now fleshed their product line out to the point that they're starting to be able to be considered a full line equipment dealer. The M7 now fills out the top end of this product range, and so now Kubota can put a tractor, a meaningful tractor, in front of a lot of the meaningful implements that they now own as well. So as we take a quick walk around here, we can show you some of the things that Kubota has done to really be able to bring a tractor to a new segment of the market where they really weren't able to compete before. As I said, Kubota has made M-Series tractors for a long time, a lot longer than many people realize. You'll find old M120s and stuff running around fields all over the place, well over 100 horsepower with power shift transmissions that have been out for 20 and 25 years. However, it was never an area that Kubota was really successful in here in the US. And so as recent years have gone by and the company has grown, we've seen more M-Series tractors out there in operation. As a C&H dealer ourselves and having Case and New Holland product around alongside the Kubota stuff, the one criticism you could always give to Kubota tractors were that they ran a little bit lightweight when it came to raw tonnage compared to what a lot of the other counterparts in the industry were at. And they only ever offered open center hydraulic systems, never closed center systems, which when you're in applications where you need specific amounts of hydraulic flow to hydraulic pumps, closed center systems don't really work very well. So for applications like spraying, or when you have several remotes in operation on a tractor and you need predictable flows, open center systems don't provide that very well. So there were areas and applications where we really couldn't sell M-Series tractors to particular customers. Excellent machines for loader work and haying applications, definitely a lot of places that they could do very well, but also some places that they couldn't. The new M7s now address some of those shortcomings. So when we come to raw tonnage and we look at the size of the transmission assemblies here in the back, to the axles going out through the tires, Kubota is now offering some things that we have asked for in the past but never received. So now when you go and you compare the base tractor weights of these machines to other tractors from Case, New Holland, Deere, AGCO, Kubota is right there toe to toe, if not a little beyond where a lot of the other companies are. So we got tonnage, we've got nice heavy axles, bar axles, diameters of axles that are actually larger than what most of the industry is. And now in this guy, in the premium series, closed center hydraulics. They do make M7 tractors in standard machines as well that can come with open center hydraulic systems. But in our area here in the Northeast, it's very unusual for us to sell a tractor of this size with open center. So my suspicion would be most of what you're going to see out there in the marketplace are closed center M7 series tractors. So these guys, this one right here is equipped with 4 electronic remotes. We can show you up in the cab a little bit later exactly how those work out, along with ISOBUS plugs, trailer adapters, hydraulic returns, and connections in the back to accept implements that Kubotas have never really pulled before. Just like we talked about with Kubota's SSV series when that product was introduced, this one as well doesn't quite feel like a first generation product. As we walk around here and we look at some of the nice features that Kubota built into this machine, some of the refinements that you'll find, it doesn't feel like a product that was rushed to market and wasn't really ready to hit and give a good impression. All of the things that we found on this machine so far have really exceeded our expectations in most ways. You see something right back here in the fender, just simple things that they thought through it, like your PTO controls, to be able to spin the PTO to get your PTO hooked up. Functions for your rear remote, if you need to be able to cycle those, functions for your 3-point hitch are all right back here on the fender. As we continue to walk around the tractor, if you look up here in the front at the front axle, Kubota's using Spitzer front axles on this machine, and they have front axle suspension on them as well, with a really nice adjustment from the cab to be able to dial how loose this is, and also options to be able to toggle it on and off when you have a loader involved so that you're not squashing the suspension with a loader. This tractor right here does not have a front PTO on it. It is available as a factory option to have front PTO and front 3-point for guys that are running triple mowers and that kind of stuff. Our opinion would be at 171 horsepower, it doesn't have quite enough power to run a triple mower with conditioners and stuff on it, but in areas where you're not using conditioners or even running just a single front mower, there are front 3-point options available straight from the factory. Being that this guy is Tier 4 final, we do have a def tank up on here. That's been in this size tractor here for a long time. Not a big deal, just keep the thing topped off every once in a while. Let's climb up to the cab. So we're going to do a quick review here of all the controls that are on the control cluster over here on the side, as well as a quick step through the monitor. There's a nice manual that they've got that really goes through these things in detail, but there's not as much here as what it looks like at first glance. A lot of the buttons that are on here have functions related to speed, headland management, engine RPMs, hydraulic remotes, but there's a lot of functions because there's 4 remotes. You got 4 buttons for that, right? So it's not as overwhelming as it may look like at first glance. This tractor comes equipped with 4 rear remotes, and the one that we have right here now. Our first and second remotes are right up here on the control pod, and the third and fourth remotes are right back here. These can be dialed and adjusted using functions up here on the monitor. If you need to dial in specific hydraulic flows and that kind of stuff, it can all be done up here on the screen. Down around here are largely functions that are related to movement. So the N is going to kick you into neutral. This is going to engage and disengage your 4-wheel drive. So lock your differential. As we continue to come back around here, these are throttle presets for the engine. So if you have a particular preset for where, say, 540 RPMs are, or a particular preset that you like for lugging, you can set and store those right here, and by pressing it, the engine throttle will return to a preset point. There's also a dial right down here that I can dial my throttle up and down. They're talking about those throttle presets. So if I wanted to go to, say, my 540 range, I just hit that. You can hear the throttle jump up. Or a lower range if I like it down there. Or you can make manual adjustments here using the slider. The 3-point control on this is done with this dial right here. You can dial it up and down, as well as a safety lockout. The F controls up here are all controls that are related to the screen and to the monitor. So the home button right here recalls some standard settings on the monitor. The F buttons are recalls as well, and we'll step through those a little bit later. Big yellow switch will engage your PTO, so you flip that guy forward in order to turn your PTO on, or flip it back in order to shut it off. If I continue around the side over here, I have adjustment levers for the PTO itself. So this tractor has a regular PTO or an E speed for a 540E or a 1000E. So up here in the top position, I'm in regular. If I shift down here, I'm in the economy mode, or I can toggle between 1000 RPMs or 540 RPMs. And also remember to change your shaft out at the back when you do that in order to change the splines. This tractor that we're driving has a hydraulic front suspension on it, so you can dial the suspension up and down right here, or in my running around, I've typically just used this in an auto mode, so this isn't a control that you typically have to use. And back here around my back, I get the controls for the HVAC, for the air conditioning. Today, it's a hot, about 92 degrees outside. I've had the air conditioning running on 2 here for a while because I didn't want it to be too loud over top of my talking. And even that has maintained the temperature in the cab just fine. If you go way down around the back down here, you can see that there are several connectors down here. These are electrical connectors for the monitor and also isobus connectors. Electronically, this tractor is fairly modern. And we talked about in that collection of companies that Kubota has acquired, Kverland is one of them, and Kverland is actually an innovator and creator of the whole isobus standard. So this tractor and its monitor are all using isobus. So you have isobus network connectors back behind the seat as well as behind the monitor as well. This monitor is a Kverland monitor that they've had out for a long time. We'll step through this here shortly, but you can see it's a nice advanced monitor. Again, not feeling like a first generation product. This is the CVT tractor that we're driving. The power shift, the controller looks basically the same, but while this changes your speed when you go between forward and reverse, the power shift changes gears. So in a power shift, you tap this forward or pull it back in order to shift, and we'll go through some of the functions on a power shift tractor here shortly. If I want to change directions, I can do that just by pressing F or R right here on the control stick. I can take my 3-point hitch from full up to full down just by tapping this. I can recall a cruise control speed by tapping that right there, or work my first two remotes off the blue and black buttons down here at the bottom. The tractor also has a bunch of functions down here as well. I have all the buttons to turn my individual work lights on and off. Haven't gotten a chance to see this thing at night yet, but there's a mess of work lights on it. And then up here on the dash behind the steering wheel, I get a lot of the standard things as well. So indicator lights for, say, the position of my 3-point hitch, my suspension, my max speed, the speed that I'm traveling, my hour meter, my PTO RPMs, my DEF fluid, and then good old school analog gauges for my engine RPMs, temp, and fuel level. So we're going to go for a quick drive here. You can see right now I'm sitting in the parking lot in neutral. So when I want to go into forward, the way that I would usually do that would be to either move the shuttle up on the steering column just like you would be used to on most other tractors, or I could press a dead man switch on the bottom of the control stick and press forward and shift into the forward gear. Now this tractor has two different ways to move forward. There's a foot throttle on the floor, and if I push the foot throttle down, you know, the harder you press it, the faster I go, just like you would be used to. Being that this is a CVT transmission, I don't have any gears or ranges to change. The harder I press this thing down, the faster I'm going to go, clear up to 31 miles an hour. The other option for controlling your speed is to do it with the control stick right here, and this is typically what you would use when you're in the field. So I can go from basically at a standstill and slowly press this stick forward, and the tractor will speed up as I press the stick forward. So right now I'm at 5 miles an hour. If I give it a little push forward, I'll crawl up to 6.5, and the longer you hold it forward, the faster you go. You could completely drive with this stick, but you're going to find the tractor doesn't take off very quickly. So for instance, if you were going to road and you wanted to go from a stop sign and slam on the gas and go fast, you're going to want to use the foot throttle down on the floor because the tractor has a heck of a lot more get up and go that way. But if I was doing loader work and I had to do a lot of direction changing, you know, it's nice to and then just toggle this thing between forward and reverse, and the tractor just gradually rolls to a stop and changes directions. This transmission is actually not a Kubota homegrown transmission. It's from a company called ZF or ZF Transmissions. Kubota did not have a CVT in their arsenal, and so rather than taking the time company. Good thing about that is this is not something that's not been on the market before. Several other major manufacturers also use these guys for their transmission. So this is something that's actually been field proven. Like most of the components in this tractor actually. I mean, it's a Kubota engine, the actual block of which has been used in other Kubota tractors in the past. So this isn't something that's completely new to the market from the ground up. As we pop around the parking lot here, you'll see that, of course, the tractor, and obviously something this size, it's expected you're going to have an air ride seat. This also has front suspension on it, so I can actually dial how soft that front suspension is using some switches over here on the side, or just flip it into an auto mode, and the tractor will take care of those adjustments for me. Those are all things that you can show over here on the monitor by making a couple of simple adjustments. So you can see as I'm driving across this really rough ground, the tractor rides just fine. There's Nate, my camera guy, was complaining a little earlier that this thing doesn't have an air ride buddy seat. Can't have everything. One of the nicest things about a CVT transmission is you have completely decoupled your engine RPMs and your transmission speed from each other. So in the case of this tractor, when I go and reach down here, I can flip on my PTO using this switch right here. I'll flip that guy forward, you see the light turns on, and I can see up here on the monitor exactly what my PTO RPMs are. So I'll range my engine. Right now I'm at 1000E, so I only got to go part way up. Now once I get up to PTO speed, I could still choose to move the tractor really slowly. So we could take the stick over here and creep right along, or slam the whole way down using the foot pedal and go really quickly without having the PTO RPMs vary. In a power shift, you'd have to set that speed, and then as you move through your gears, you basically have to find the right gear for what you're wanting to do. And this CVT, being that it can adjust infinitely, gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of managing the ground speed versus the engine RPMs. The monitor here is one of the things that I was pretty impressed by the tractor out of the gate. So right now I have the tractor turned off. I'm going to go ahead and start it. When you get into some tractors today, they can't operate without the monitor on and booted up. It does not appear to be the case on this tractor. I can go ahead and start the machine and throw it right into gear even before this thing is totally initialized and started. You can watch here from the time that I turned the key there and started it up. It does not take terribly long for everything on the monitor to pop up and become active. As I drill through the screen here a little bit, out of the gate, I found this thing really intuitive and fairly easy to use. More or less, you have looks like 7 control groups across the bottom here, an additional 6 across the top, and then 4 different places where you can put different information on the screen. So there's a kind of a starting setup down here. If you look on the bottom, we have these F buttons and this home button. These correspond to different positions on this screen right here. So by hitting home, this is kind of your normal starting spot. And if you go through the process that we're about to do and mix everything all up and want to go back to your starting position, you simply hit the home button, or when you start the tractor up, it returns to its last point. So while we go and we move screens around here, if you get lost, it's really simple just to hit home and return back to where you were before. So as we look at all of our different control groups, we can pick out, say, in this case, the front axle suspension in the 4-wheel drive. Say you wanted to make some changes to that system, you press that group of controls, and then you get these 3 squares, or diamonds rather, on the monitor, and anywhere that you touch next is where it's going to place that group. So if I go right there, I get a whole new set of buttons related to the front suspension right on that portion of the screen. If I wanted to put it somewhere else, I can go back and hit my front suspension and say put it up there in the top corner. And then I can see the things related to that group of controls. And so by choosing the group here and then placing it into any of those boxes, you can customize the layout of this screen to show exactly what functions you happen to be using at the time. And it is really that easy. I mean, if, say we want a calculator, right? We can touch a calculator up there at the top, and we've got a calculator on our screen to do, sprayer calculations and that kind of stuff. This is an isobus monitor, so right here is a control for isobus. If you have an isobus attachment shown up, you can put it right there. The tractor supports cameras, so if you had cameras attached, you could pick the camera and drop it in that box, or say you want to put your camera over here. You simply pick the group of controls, say our hydraulics, and I want to drop my hydraulics right there. This larger screen here in the middle gives you a little bit more information than what some of the other screens do over here on the side. So when you need to make fine adjustments, say we were just talking about the suspension, you can see right now my suspension is set to 58%, and I can turn it into an auto mode so that the tractor self-adjusts. I can turn it into a manual mode by flipping that off. I can lock the suspension into place. I can make all those adjustments by basically pushing these virtual buttons here on the control. Okay, so we're gonna hop back here. So my larger section here on the screen, when we're in our selection mode, this big one right here, will give you a little bit of additional functions that you don't necessarily get when you lay the control out into one of the smaller spaces. So say I put my rear remote controls up here, you really only see the different valves, and then when I activate them, you can see they turn on and off. So there's one, which I'm flipping the blue switch here on the controller, and I can see the blue valve up here on the dash showing that it's being activated or turned on and off. If I take that control group and I lay it out into the larger part of the monitor, I get some additional functions. So say you wanted to lock particular valves out, you can basically turn them on and off. You could pick this and you could say change a timed flow for how long you want it to go when you tap it. You could give a priority over other circuits. So by putting things into the larger part of the display here, you kind of get the advanced extended version of what these different control groups are capable of. One that I like when I went through here, say I have a high and a low range, right, for my CVT transmission. So when I'm in high right now, I can go 31 miles an hour. So if I wanted to go in and toggle right now, so this is my low range, pushed a button down on the control panel. If I wanted to dial back my low range to max out at 8 miles an hour, I can simply do that right there. And then when I go back, you'll see I now have 8 miles an hour max in my low range. If I toggle to my high range, I can change those values as well. Up here in the corner, you'll see this monitor also has the capable of doing GPS mapping. So there's no antenna attached to it right now, so it doesn't know where it is. So again, you don't have to have 500 monitors in the cab. You have isobus controls, you have GPS mapping capabilities, you have cameras, all things that guys tend to stack over on the right-hand side of their tractors. And this monitor is able to do all of those things. So again, just an impressive thing for a first-generation tractor. This is a monitor that Kverland already made and sold onto the open market before Kubota even was developing this tractor. So there's a lot of functionality and intelligence and just ease of use built into this thing already. And I found it very intuitive to use. I mean, when I sat down in this tractor at first and went through all the controls and started driving around, there were really only two functions that I found that I had to actually break out the manual to try to figure out exactly what was going on. So for the most part, quite impressive and a really good effort by Kubota. One of the things that we see about Kubota's product line and the tractors that we've always historically sold is the attachment rate of loaders onto the tractor is much higher than what we would see from other brands. Typically, Kubota has really excelled in loader applications across their product line. You'll find the loaders are all very strong and capable and have very fast cycle times. So when Kubota went to fit a loader on the M7, they fitted a beast of a loader. The capacities of this thing are very, very strong with industry-leading capacities. When we first had an introduction of this tractor done, a lot of demos were done showing the speed and capacity of this loader side by side with many of the competitors in this space. And with two round bales grabbed into the end of that loader, you could clearly see the difference between the cycle times and the capacities of the Kubota versus a lot of the other tractors in this size. So you can see right here, loader, just like the rest of the Kubota loaders, it's easily removable by pulling this pin up here. Parking stands down here on the bottom so that it's able to stand on its own. Given the capacity of this loader, skid steer couplers are not offered. This all comes with a Euro coupler, which can handle a lot more weight. A simple lever here to latch to drop the Euro coupler off. Most of these tractors are going to be sold with third function hydraulics out the front. Those will come with a manifold and a quick coupler to easily remove your implements off the front. And around the side, generally these will always come with a quick release for all of the loader hydraulics and electronics for that third function as well, simply by throwing that lever forward. So a very, very strong and very advanced loader. The controls for this loader are actually integrated right into the control pod. So there's a really short throw electronic lever right beside where your arm rests, along with thumb switches in order to operate the third function, or an optional fourth function, even if you need that many options out the front. So that's a Kubota M7 Series. If you have an application that demands a tractor like this, give us a call here at Messicks. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at messicks.com. When we look at the sales, wait till, he's making so much noise over there now. We're not in our nice, quiet, wooded area. What? Look at the conditions that we have to work in, Nate. It's unbelievable what we have to do. It's even hot today.
You're wearing black.
I'm wearing black.